Hello. Today we're talking about The Winter's Tale. At the end of The Winter's Tale, there are characters who say that the plot of this story is like an old tale still. And there's a lot of references to storytelling in this play. For me, the true beauty of it is that it contains everything. There's real shocking tragedy, a wrong which cannot be undone, a dead child. But in the end, there's also reconciliation. We get an allegorical portrayal of time. We get the most famous stage direction in all of Shakespeare, Exit, pursued by a bear. There are humorous disguises. There's a stunning court scene. A lost princess is found. Hermione is alive again. For this lecture, I'm going to just walk you through a few of the moments in this play, or the elements of this play that I find particularly lovely. One of the things that's really interesting in this play that is quite different from a lot of other plays by Shakespeare is it's a jealousy plot play. So there are quite a few of these. Othello is one. Much Ado About Nothing is a jealousy plot play. But in most other jealousy plot plays, there's a villain character who lies about another character's girlfriend or wife and is like, oh, your wife is cheating on you. And then the jealous husband or fiance is like deceived into this jealousy. And the fault they have is like choosing the wrong person to believe. Their fault is sort of mitigated in that like they would never have thought this terrible thing if this evil person had not suggested it to them. In The Winter's Tale, it's not like that. The villain isn't separate. It's not us being upset with Claudio in Much Ado About Nothing because he's choosing to believe Don John instead of Hero. Leontes chooses to believe his own ideas instead of his wife. There's not like a different person's opinion that he's weighing against his wife's. It's himself. In this play, the villainy is not separate. There's not a separate character. In The Winter's Tale, the possessive, controlling jealousy itself is what makes Leontes the villain, which I think is lovely. And I think it also draws attention to the ways in which the faults of those other jealous husbands has always been not believing their partner. They choose instead, even though they know Don John or Iago isn't necessarily promoting their interests. They choose to believe that person instead of the woman who's closest to them. And so it's a deeply misogynistic trope throughout these plays. And I think in The Winter's Tale, you see the misogyny in the trope. On the other end of the spectrum, we also have a romantic relationship, which is adorable. Leontes and Hermione are deeply fraught, but Florizel and Perdita? They are so cute together and so incredibly faithful. Florizel will give up anything, give up his crown, give up his entire fortune and livelihood for the sake of the shepherd's daughter he's in love with. There are many ways in which these lovers are starred unluckily, like Romeo and Juliet. But unlike Romeo and Juliet, they make it out okay. And I think one of the true joys of this play is having them to sort of brighten the whole play. One of the passages that I like the best in this play is Act 4, Scene 4, which is the longest scene in all of Shakespeare. It's a sheep shearing scene where the shepherd and his family are throwing a sheep shearing festival for the neighbors. And Perdita, the lost princess, who believes herself to be just a shepherd's daughter, is the hostess of the affair. And she's handing out flowers to all the guests. Gives them flowers that coordinate with their ages, giving rosemary and rue to the older guests because they're flowers that grow in the aged part of the year. They are flowers she's giving to the aged people. So she's trying to sort of play the role she's supposed to play as hostess, queen of the feast. And then she turns to Florizel, her beloved, who she knows is the prince, but everyone else doesn't know that he's the prince. And she says she wishes she has flowers of the spring, because he's so young. He should have flowers from the young time of year. She's describing how she wants to just make him garlands of flowers and strew him o'er and o'er. And he says, what, a corpse? And she gets so embarrassed. And she's like, no, not like a corpse. Like a bank for love to lie and play on. Not like a corpse. Or if, not to be buried, but quick and in my arms. So I don't want to think of you as a body unless I'm thinking of you as a living body, alive, buried in my arms. And suddenly that's getting both intimate and a little bit explicit. And so she's suddenly all embarrassed and saying, like, I shouldn't be talking about this. I'm just trying to be like the players, like playing the role. And he, like, cuts her off and doesn't let her say that she shouldn't be talking. He tells her, what you do still betters what is done. When you speak, sweet, I'd have you do it ever. When you sing, I'd have you buy and sell so give alms, pray so, for the ordering of your fares to sing them too. When you do dance, I wish you a wave of the sea, that you might ever do nothing but that. Move still, still so, and own no other function. Each your doing, so singular and each particular, crowns what you are doing in the present deed, that all your acts are queens. It's like so beautiful. Whatever you are doing is the most beautiful thing that has ever been done by any person ever, and I want you to never stop doing it until you do something else, and then I want you to never stop doing that. It's just, all your acts are queens. It's so good. Another thing I love about this play is the variety and beauty of its female characters. Paulina is a favorite of mine. Also Hermione. I mean, I love them all. Paulina is exceptional in that she is a very strong-minded woman who speaks her mind even to people in authority. She comes bringing the baby to Leontes, saying, this is your child. What are you doing accusing your wife of infidelity? Clearly this child is yours. And that goes very poorly. Leontes threatens, I'll have thee burnt. And Paulina replies with this. She says, I care not. It is an heretic that makes the fire, not she which burns in it. I'll not call you tyrant, but this most cruel usage of your queen, not able to produce more accusation than your own weak-hinged fancy, something savors of tyranny. And I love so much that little, like, I'm not gonna call you a tyrant, but the things you're doing, they taste like tyranny. Later, when Leontes has spoken out against the gods and Hermione dies, Paulina comes in and calls him tyrant again and again and again. She starts her speech with that term for him. So it's very interesting, and it's such a contrast to some of the other outspoken women in Shakespeare. She keeps bringing up the wrongs that he's done and, like, has him repent over and over for, like, more than a decade. Another thing I love in this play is that trial scene. I love Hermione speaking in her own defense so eloquently and so beautifully, and also her utter trust that the gods are on her side. When she is tried, they have an oracle of Delphi. The Apollo has spoken on her behalf. The oracle says, Hermione is chaste, Polixenes blameless, Camillo a true subject, Leontes a jealous tyrant, his innocent babe truly begotten, and the king shall live without an heir, if that which is lost be not found. Which is just such a fantastic moment. And then Leontes astonishingly rejects the verdict from the gods and says there's no truth at all in the oracle. And immediately his son dies. And when this happens and the queen dies of grief, presumably there's question about, like, does the queen die? Does she not die? Paulina comes back in and calls him tyrant again and again and again. People are telling Paulina, like, shut up, like, don't torment him with this. And Leontes asks her to keep speaking. One of the things I love about this play is, like, men who tell other men to be quiet when they're telling women to stop talking. Or even Florizel doing this when Perdita is so embarrassed, she's like, I shouldn't be saying this. And he's like, you're saying things, my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, there's something really beautiful about that. But I think my favorite part of the whole play is this miracle of the ending, which is difficult to stage and complicated to get the audience on board with what's going on. Hermione has been dead for 16 years, and Paulina says, oh, the great sculptor has made a sculpture of Hermione that is so true to life, you would think that it breathes. Family's been reunited because they found out that the lost princess has been found, and Polixenes is, like, no longer angry at his son, and they're all together and they're going, and instead of it being a time of mourning, it's a time of celebration and reconciliation. So the statue comes to life. Or maybe it was never dead to begin with. And Paulina sort of opens this curtain for us as well. She says to everyone something that's sort of similar to what Puck says in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Puck tells us in his epilogue that if we didn't like the play, if we were offended, just pretend it's a dream, diminish it, let it go. And Paulina asks us to do the opposite, to open ourselves up to the enormity of what we will see. She says, it is required you do awake your faith. It's so beautiful. And then they all go, and Hermione is restored to them. If this play is done well, the miracle of that reconciliation can awake all of our faith to a kind of future where wrongs can be forgiven and reconciliation is possible. And I find that intensely beautiful. Alright, so that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks. Bye.